So, hello everybody. Let's get started. So, whether you're watching live or as a recording, feel free to participate as we go through our little preview of 2022 and the questions that I'm going to be asking and some of the things that we're going to be doing together. Feel free to just do that at home as best as you can. And let me start with just asking a couple of questions about 2021 because I feel like in order for us to go into 2022, we first need to also address 2021 because in some ways, or in a lot of ways, 2021 and 2022 have certain connections, right? They're connected in the sense that 2022 is like a continuation of 2021. And of course, it's not going to be the same as 2021, but I wanted to start off just kind of like if you could take a pen and paper, all of you who are here, and if you could just kind of like answer some of these questions that are here on the screen, like the first question being, what was difficult in 2021 for you personally? Were there any places, people, experiences, connections that you felt were difficult for you, or anything in connection with yourself, with your own inner processing or your own learning and evolving? Was there anything that felt difficult in 2021? And I just want you to write that down on a piece of paper. And I'm actually going to be doing the exercise with you, just so you guys have enough time to write it down. So if you're doing this at home or watching this as a recording, so definitely write down a couple of things on a piece of paper. What was difficult in 2021? So, and you don't have to share it, by the way, if you don't want to, with me. But I will ask people later if they could share. So I guess for me, what was difficult in 2021, let's see. Yeah. So I'm just going to write that down right now. Okay, and feel free to just write that down. And then the second thing that we want to write down is what was inspiring about 2021. So sometimes it's so easy to find the things that didn't work. But then when we look back, we also want to look to see, well, what worked in 2021? What felt good? What felt inspiring? What felt like we learned something? Actually, the learning comes later. So just what was inspiring and what felt good or what worked in 2021. So write that down for yourself on that piece of paper. So let's see what worked for me in 2021. Okay. And then the last thing I want you to write down is like what have you learned from 2021? So if you look back to the whole year from January until December, were there any lessons that you feel like you can take away from what you have experienced that year? Like what were the biggest lessons for you? The biggest learns? And feel free to take your time with this, even if I'm going too fast right now for you. If you feel like you need more time, feel free to take as much time as you need. You can also come back to this later with the recording and do it in your own timing as well. So my biggest learns for 2021. Okay, I had a bunch of learns I just discovered. Okay, great. So before we go to how is 2022 different from 2021, I would just like to know, is there anybody that would like to, hold on, I need to, participants, hold on. I need to admit some people here. Okay, so for those of you who are joining just now, if anybody's just joining, just feel free to answer these first three questions by writing the answers down on a piece of paper, because we're kind of like working through that right now and talking about that. All right, and then so is there anybody here that has joined live that would like to share either what was difficult for them, what was inspiring for them, or what they've learned about 2021? Is there anybody who would like to share? And if you do, then just unmute yourself and just share.
I can.
Carl.
Hi. My stroke recovery was. I mean, it's sort of an ongoing thing, and it's the kind of a realization of which symptoms, whatever, are going to hang on, and then which ones I'm going to be able to, to do more about. So that was sort of like both difficult and a learning experience for there.
I'm learning, great.
And then part of that was still trying to organize life.
Organize life. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, the Venus retrograde should be helpful with that right now in Capricorn to organize your life a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else who would like to share about what's been difficult for them in 2021, or what's been inspiring for them, or what they've learned?
I'll share something.
Kathy.
As you know, we moved to Vermont. We were looking to buy property, and we were really clear. We really spent time, with a vision board and imagining the kind of property we wanted, and the property found us.
Beautiful.
And so, that reassurance that we are part of the universe, and that sometimes our anxieties and our fears get so big
Yes.
that then when something good happens, we're kind of shocked. We're like afraid. So it was really a good experience to be found by the property.
Great. So that was like an inspiring thing and a learn as well.
Correct.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing, Kathy.
Mm.
Wonderful. Is there anybody else who would like to share about something that was either difficult, inspiring, or what they've learned in 2021? Anybody? Okay, if nobody shares, I'll share a couple of things that were difficult for me. So one of the things that was difficult for me in 2021 was the narrative out there in the world that was going on. It kept sidetracking me, and sort of like I had to be very conscious of keeping myself centered, and so that was really difficult. And then the other thing that was difficult for me, that I found myself, I was much more aware than ever how personal I take things sometimes. Like certain things that happen in conversation or that happen with other people, where I just think it's about me when it's really not about me, And the funny thing is that my mind knows it, like my mental capacity understands that it's not personal, but emotionally there's sort of like like a holding of that. And so I've had to really learn how to go from like this holding on to that personal thing, the emotional personal thing, to like taking care of my emotions, taking care of myself in that moment really well. And as I take care of myself, I'm able to release and let go of that tension that I feel in terms of what feels personal. Does that make sense, what I'm sharing here? And the other thing, so in terms of what was inspiring for me in 2021, was that I really felt some really close connections with people. especially with like-minded people and with people that were sort of on the same wavelength as me. And it really created a lot of heart openings as well for me. And what I learned from 2021 was that it's okay to be me completely, that I don't need to adjust myself for anybody else, that it's okay to think differently from other people, that it's okay to set healthy boundaries and to say no to things. And these seem like really simple things, but and obviously I've known all these things before, but there's sort of like a deepening of each of those things have happened this year, so a deepening of, oh, it's okay to be me, a deepening of it's okay to think differently, it's a deepening of saying no or setting healthy boundaries. And then also to see my value more clearly, the value that I bring to the world. And so again, a deepening of that. So I really felt sort of like in all those areas of life, there was a huge shift in things, a lot of internal movements that were happening. So did any of you feel any of those things as well that I was just sharing? And feel free to either unmute yourself or to write in the chat window if you want to say something or share about that. Is there anybody?
Yeah, I too found the political narratives really difficult.
Yes.
Just the split in reality.
The split, yes. The separation, yes. Mm-hmm. Same here, yeah. It feels difficult to. I think it's especially if you're someone who loves to connect and loves to feel that universal love. To feel the narrative in such a strong way, dividing people is very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Carl. So Kathy's saying, yes, she can relate. Michaela is here as well. Hi, Michaela. Debbie is saying, absolutely, all of them and more. Haha. Very good. And then Michaela is saying, I found the narrative difficult too, which was very inversely, yes, intense and inverse, yeah. Okay, so, and that actually brings us into 2022, right? Like just giving that review of 2021, because this narrative that we've been dealing with, part of that had to do with the moon nodes in Gemini, Sagittarius, but part of it also had to do with that Saturn-Uranus square in Aquarius and Taurus, right? And so, of course, the moon nodes are going to switch into new signs in January. So we're going to start a new soul journey in that regard, and we'll get to that in a moment. But in terms of the Saturn-Uranus square, that will still be in place for all of 2022. Not as strong, mostly between August and November of 2022 will be stronger, but it will still be in place. We'll still have sort of like the resonance of what we've felt in 2021 around that will still continue and hopefully evolve. Hopefully these conversations will start to evolve in some way. Now, first of all, before I keep going, let me just say thank you so much for everyone who's here already. And thanks for watching if you're watching this as a recording. Thanks for your time and for your resources. And for those of you who don't know me super well, I just want to say that, I've been studying astrology since the early 90s, and did my first certification in 2005. And then I became a life coach and did a coaching training in 2009. And so I've been doing this particular business model that I'm currently doing since 2010. And so I've been doing a lot of inner work myself in terms of therapy, in terms of personal development, in terms of my own coaching technique that I use with myself and with my partner as well, and with my clients. And so all of that inner work has been really leading up to a place where I can just see, especially the last 4 or 5 years, it's just felt very much like all this inner work needs to happen in order for the outer to manifest more powerfully and more strongly. And so even though I am naturally someone who's a little impatient and who likes to move fast, I've had to really learn these last 5 years to kind of slow things down, and to be more patient and to be more present with my inner processes. And so I feel that that's definitely something that's not just happening to me. I think there's a lot of inner processing going on for a lot of us. And so it's important to really honor our inner processes, to honor what that means for each one of us individually speaking, because it's going to look a little bit different for each one of us, right? So let me just say that, of course, today we're going to talk about 2022, what's challenging, what's beneficial. And as you know as well from the email that I sent out, there were a bunch of attachments in the email. And one of the attachments was the 2022 overview that each of you received. And it starts out with a paragraph about what 2022 is really about, right? And this is just sort of like a general overview. We'll go into more detail into all of the different things as well. But generally speaking, we're definitely, we're still learning to stretch and grow on a collective level, just as we did the last 2 years. And of course, 2020 in some way was sort of like year zero to make huge transformational shifts happen for us as a collective. And in 2021 was more like the shift in our thinking and in our connecting, how we connect with other people. And so I felt like 2020 was very much sort of like connected to the physical realm, and to, what's real and what's not real, and like how do we connect to our physical reality in a way that feels where we can feel safe, and where we can also take responsibility for what we've created over time, right? 2021 felt a little bit more connected to the mental realm because there was a lot of air going on, and with all the stuff in Aquarius and Gemini and so on. And so the air quality, of course, has to do with our mental health, or with our mental capacities to digest and to process things. And so I think 2021, it was very important for us to really focus our mind on the things that are valuable, that are healthy, that are in alignment with ourselves, not to get sidetracked, not to get too scattered in our thinking, not to focus on things that bring us down, or that keep us feel trapped, not to focus on anything that creates more fear in our lives, and to also make sure that the narrative that was going on out there in the world was really something that we could feel healthily aligned with or not, right? So to make sure that whatever is going out there is actually a narrative that we want to take on ourselves. So that was really what 2021 was about, right? And so we had to learn on a very individual level to decide or distinguish what is really healthy and right for us personally, and how do we personally want to move with what we're experiencing outside of ourselves. And so, of course, 2022 is a continuation of that to some degree. But what's different about 2022 is that, especially until March of 2022, with Jupiter being in Pisces, we have, until May of 2022, with Jupiter being in Pisces, there's this sense of needing to really focus on our heart energies, and to really visualize what we want our heart to align with. So moving from the mind more into the heart, or connecting the mind energy with the heart energy, is something that we're have more ease with, especially until May of 2022. And until March, because of Venus being in Capricorn for such a long time, and also connecting to Pluto several times during that time, we are being invited to be very realistic about where we stand and what we want, and what we're building, what we're doing out there in the world, and to make sure that we are clear and have healthy boundaries in place, and that we are that we're really honoring our own limitations and other people's limitations. And to just know that, last year, because of the mental energies that were in place, there was a lot of judgment that also, and separation that got created because of like, I know I'm right. No, I know I'm right. No, this makes sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me, right? Like there was a lot of that back and forth between people and groups, and all sorts of stuff going on. Well, Jupiter in Pisces this year is really inviting us to move beyond all of those differences, and to just look at what do we have in common as human beings? What is at the center of all of our hearts? How can we connect on an emotional level with other people rather than fight, or rather than separate from each other? And we got a little bit of a glimpse of that last year already, between May and July of 2021, with Jupiter in Pisces already. Well, this year it will happen between January and May, and then again towards the end of the year between October and December, or the end of October and the end of December. So we're definitely we're getting the invitation, right? And again, remember, with anything that's connected to how we want to connect to the energies out there, whether that's whether we connect to that via astrology, or through our feeling body or psychic energies, however we want to connect to the energies out there, it is important that we recognize that energy can be experienced on a lot of different levels, that it's not just all like glory and sunshine and beauty, that we have to also acknowledge some of the darker stuff. We have to acknowledge some of the limitations. We have to acknowledge some of the things that are not working as well, in order for us to fully take in the whole picture. And then once we have the whole picture, rather than focusing only on one part of the picture, to make sure that we're really honoring the whole picture and say, okay, I understand the limitations. I understand what's not working. And I understand the shadow issues that are coming up, that are being shown to me, whether that's from myself individually speaking or collectively speaking. But I also understand that I'm a creator, that I have the power to visualize what it is that I want to create for myself and for the collective and for the world and for this planet. And so we have a choice to focus our energies, our heart energies and our mind energies, on the things that we really, really want to be creating, rather than focusing on the darkness and on the fear and what's dividing us, to make sure that we're really focusing on what's bringing us together. What is it that we all want? No matter what we believe in, no matter what our opinions are, what do we all want really? And I think some of that has to do with, feeling safe, feeling heard, feeling individually recognized and heard, feeling that we have beauty and abundance in our lives. And I think that we all want those things. And so if we can connect with other people, no matter what their beliefs and narratives are, if we can attempt to connect to other people from that place of like, I want what's best for you and I want what's best for me. And the narrative doesn't have to divide us necessarily, but we can find commonalities within the separation as well, right? So Jupiter in Pisces is sort of inviting us to find that line, to find the oxymoron, right? To connect the dots, to make sure that we're not staying in separation, whether that's with ourselves or with others. Now, towards the end of 2022, there is going to be a lot of movement, because we're going to have Jupiter in Aries after May of 2020 until the end of October. We also have Mars in Gemini for a very, very long time. So there's a lot of movement and energy. Mars will also be in Aries at some point, conjuncting Jupiter. So from May on until the rest of the year, it's going to be, the energy will be much more vivacious, and we'll go into that in the chart as well. But one of the things that's for sure is, because of that Saturn-Uranus square that's still in place, what we do need to really consider for the remainder of the year, for all of this year, is that we still need to honor each other's differences, honor each other's preferences, knowing that my own values and my preferences are just as valuable as anybody else's. And it's not good or bad, right? Like, we have to learn to move away from it's good or bad, it's right or wrong. These are the things that keep us stuck in the past. So if we don't want to stay stuck in the past, stuck in the old paradigms that we've been moving with for centuries, we have to move away from good, bad, right, wrong. And we have to learn to express something that we feel a preference to, or that we feel a resistance to, in ways where we just communicate that in neutral ways, where we can say, this is something that I'm having a hard time with. Neutral. This is something that I really feel attracted to, or that I really like, or that feels really good to me. Neutral, right? It's not like right or wrong or good or bad. So we have to learn to shift our perspectives in that way, that we can make ourselves not wrong. We can not make other people wrong, or the world, or certain systems, or certain groups of people, because the truth is, transformation is happening. It is happening every moment of now, and what we can do to help the transformation become one that feels less intense and less strugglesome, is to keep our hearts open and to keep visualizing what it is that we want the planet to experience, what we want the collective to experience, what we want ourselves to experience on an individual level. And again, it's not about right or wrong, not about good or bad. Everything that is happening has its place. Everything that feels like something that we're resisting right now, whether that's a narrative or something that we're just not okay with, what we see out there in the world, or what we're experiencing with other people in our lives, family members, friends, colleagues, clients, whatever it is that we're experiencing that we have a resistance towards. It is important to just recognize that what we resist persists, that every resistance in our lives is something that we need to take responsibility for. And every one of us can shift resistances. If you feel a resistance, own it. Own your own resistances and go, this is my resistance, and I am going to deal with that. It has nothing to do with whatever is out there that you're having a resistance towards, right? So we have to learn to be more self-responsible about how we respond, how we react to the world out there. And is it easy? No, of course it's not easy. It's quite hard, actually. And I've been struggling with it all this past year. But I also recognize that I'm getting better at it. I'm recognizing that the more I practice, taking responsibility for my own resistances, for my own narrative that I have in my head, when I take responsibility for my own wounding, for my own limitations that I have, that is one step closer to freedom that I can experience within me. Because without responsibility, without self-responsibility, we cannot experience freedom. So when we feel this sense of like there is no freedom in this, or there's no freedom in that, or we're being forced this way or that way, or there's people that are not complying, and so that's creating fear, and there's this and this going on. This may all be true, but your own narrative about it is what keeps you imprisoned by it. And so we have to recognize that our own narrative is really the thing that we want to take responsibility for, and refocus our energies, refocus our narrative on something that really serves us, our heart energy, that serves our well-being, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, right? So I hope all of this makes sense, what I'm sharing here. Now let me go. So all of you have this handout. Let me just show you a chart real quick that I wanted to you to see about the beginning of the new year, New Year's of 2022, just to see what the energies looked like at that time, so we can kind of get a sense for what this year is all about. Or so obviously the beginning of the year that we as a collective have agreed that this is the beginning of the year, because obviously it's arbitrary in a way that January 1st should be the beginning of a year. It could be just as well, the beginning of spring could be the beginning of the year as well, right? But we have, in Western society, we have chosen to make January 1st the beginning of our year in the Western world. So for us, we have this energetic agreement that this is a seeding of the new year. And so the seed of that new year is this chart, right? So when we look at the seed of this year, what we can see is that we have a lot of stuff in Capricorn here, which means that we need to become more sovereign in our own way. We need to learn self-responsibility. We need to learn what our limitations are. We need to be realistic about what works and what doesn't work in our own lives and collectively speaking. And because of Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, being in Aquarius, we're definitely needing to focus on a vision for humanity that serves humanity. And so each one of us might feel very differently about what that vision should be. And that's okay, as long as you're not forcing other people to have the same vision as you do. It's all good, right? It's not about that everybody needs to be the same. What we have to learn in Saturn and Aquarius is that there's a responsibility that comes with being part of a collective, but there's also the realizations that we need to have, the realistic approach of that we're all different, that we all have differences, and that there's diversity in humanity, and that we're born into a race or a planet that has tremendous diversity, where a lot of people, speak different languages, look very different from each other, have different belief systems, different upbringings. There is tremendous diversity in being human. And so we need to be realistic about that and just honor the fact that this is what we've chosen, and to be responsible about that and say, well, I have chosen to be in this life. I've chosen to be here right now in this time frame where all this huge transformation is taking place. And so what can I do that might make a difference for other human beings that are also on this planet? And you may not be able to make a difference for every single human being out there in the world, but you may be able to shift little things here and there in your own little communities, whether that's locally or online. But what we really have to understand too, because of this square here to Uranus, is that we still have to honor ourselves, honoring our own physical body, our own talents, our own preferences, our own values. We need to know that being our individual selves is very important, that needs to be honored, no matter what our vision for humanity, no matter what works and what doesn't work in our collective. We still need to honor ourselves, because if we don't honor ourselves, we cannot be a meaningful part of the collective. You can only be a meaningful part of the collective if you have first honored yourself, right? So it's really, in a sense, even though we've learned as children and through our upbringing that me first is a bad thing, right? Like focusing on yourself first is a bad thing. However, it's only a bad thing if we do it to the extreme, and if we do it at the cost of everybody else out there, at the cost of everybody else out there. If we are considering ourselves first and our preferences and our values and what's important to us, and then we're bringing that to our interactions, we're bringing that to our collaborations, we're bringing that to the collective, that is very different. That is the order of things. Because if you can see here also in the house placements, right? Uranus in Taurus, that is the second sign of the zodiac. It's the second house, is connected to Taurus. And Aquarius is the 11th house. So what comes first, 2 or 11? So of course, in terms of the sequence of things, we first have to honor ourselves, be ourselves completely, learn how to communicate and talk and express ourselves. And then we can bring all of that stuff to the collective, or to groups of people that we want to connect with and collaborate with. All right. So that's the New Year's chart. That the other thing I should mention here is that, of course, the South Node is still in Sagittarius, and we have Mars and the Moon conjunct in Sagittarius as well, which means that we're feeling a little impatient as well. We're feeling this need to really make a move forward. We want to understand things better. We want to go further. We want to explore and experience things on a larger scale, and we want to feel a satisfaction in terms of how we're connecting to our lives and what we believe about our lives. We want to feel satisfied about that, and we want to. Again, it's a fast moving energy right here, right? So there's a fast moving energy here. Then this is a little bit more slow down, take it easy, one step at a time, one day at a time. Then Saturn and Aquarius is a little bit, it speeds up a tiny bit again in terms of like the collective. We want to, create new structures. Jupiter in Pisces is more introspective, more internal, where we want to go within and tap into our intuition. So is Neptune in Pisces. Intuitively, we need to really go within and tap into that intuitive place inside of us, right? And then Uranus in Taurus as well wants us to kind of honor ourselves and really see what's true for me, what's right for me. So let's take a look at that's also a handout, by the way, that I attached to the email, which is the preview of 2022 handout. So feel free to take a look at that handout, either on your computer or if you've printed it out. So basically, yes, what can we expect from 2022? What are the energies to watch out for, and what are the energies that we can get excited about, right? And so first and foremost, of course, we want to take a look at the eclipses for this year. And I also wrote down the dates for the equinoxes and solstices. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the eclipses, of course, are powerful because eclipses are always connected to the moon nodes, and the moon nodes are the things in astrology that create our individual and collective evolution, right? So it's about soul evolution. It's about evolving as a collective and on an individual level. And this year, the eclipses will be in Taurus Scorpio because the moon nodes are going to move into Taurus Scorpio on January 18th. And so that means that if you have any personal planets or angles or points in these degrees that are listed here, or close to these degrees in Taurus or Scorpio, then this year is going to be a very powerful evolutionary year for you. Now, I have my sun in 25 degrees of Taurus, so this lunar eclipse on May 16 is going to be very powerful for me, and there's definitely something that will happen that year for me that will shift things for me in terms of relational stuff, because it's a lunar eclipse. So in terms of my relationships with other people, something is going to shift. Now, do I know exactly what that is going to look like? No, I don't. But what I do know is that I want to stay really open-hearted right around the time of the eclipses, and especially around May 16, which is actually my birthday. So I want to stay really open-hearted around the time of my birthday so that I can move into this evolutionary shift with a whole heart, from a wholehearted place, from a place without fear, from a place where I'm really allowing myself to be moved by the energies. And this is something that we really need to learn as human beings, right? Because we're not trained in that. We're not really practiced in allowing ourselves to co-create with the energies, to co-create with the universe. We've been taught from early on that, you gotta make it. You have to learn things, you have to study, you have to get things done, you have to accomplish things. And only if you do it, if you put the work in, then you can get there, right? And not that that's wrong necessarily. Like, of course, if we put in effort and time and energy into something, we will achieve something and we will get to certain goals. However, if we want to have a little bit more ease and effortlessness and less fear in our lives, it's very important that we co-create with the universe. And co-creation means trusting that the universe has our back and trusting that the energies that are coming in are energies that serve us and that help us evolve and help us move to that next level that is right for us, that we're ready for. And we can only do that without resistance and with an open heart. So when we experience resistance, so when you look at anything in astrology and you see, oh, this is happening on my Venus or on my Mars or on my Sun or on my Moon, notice how you feel about that. Notice the reaction that you're feeling when you're seeing that. Because whatever the reaction is, if you feel kind of like, whoo, this is interesting, this could be really cool, blah, 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 then you can see that there's a curiosity, there's an open-heartedness, that there is a wanting to explore these energies with the universe in a co-creative process with the universe. You're ready, you're open. However, if you're seeing something in your chart that's happening with some of these degrees and some of these signs, and you go, oh no, that eclipse is going to happen exactly on this point in my chart. What does that mean? How is that going to impact me? How is that going to affect me? Oh my God, right? Notice the feelings that come up. Notice if there's fear. Notice if there's concern. Notice if there is a wanting to know the answers to the exact degree. Because the mind tends to want to solve problems, right? The mind wants to have all the answers because the more answers you have, the safer you are. Right? That's what the mind thinks, at least. However, if we're trusting the universal process, if we're trusting the energies, if we're trusting that we're ready for whatever is coming next, then we don't need the answers because the answers will come to us. They will unfold as we're moving into that phase, into that energy. So if you find yourself connecting to any of these eclipse dates, any of these eclipse numbers, degrees and signs, and also remember, these are fixed signs, right? So if you have anything in these degrees in the fixed signs, so that also includes Leo or Aquarius, then please remember that means this is going to be a really wonderful, gigantic year for you in terms of evolutionary processes and shifting things in your life for the better. And sometimes for the better can also mean that first something has to be let go of or has to break down in order for the better to arise. But again, we have to trust that process, right? Trusting is so important. It's what Kathy said early on when we started talking about what we've learned from 2021, right? And Kathy was saying how, she really learned how to trust that the universe is really supporting her and collaborating with her. And this is really that's a very important lesson in terms of our collective evolution and our individual evolution right now, right? And of course, we can only do our own work. We cannot do the work for other people. I cannot, tell you what you need to be doing. You need to be moving through these processes on your own. You can take my advice if you like, but you also don't have to take my advice. You have to just experience and explore on your own how that feels for you, and work on your own stuff, right? And that's the only thing we really have control over is our own processes and working on our own stuff. Now, so we have these eclipses. These are really important dates this year because there's a lot of individual and collective shifting that will happen during those dates. Now, because these eclipses are in fixed signs, we want to remember fixed signs are fixed, which means that we have a tendency to take things personally with fixed signs. We have a tendency to not want to give anything up. We don't want to let go. We don't want to budge. We want to hold on to things. Now, the gift of the fixed signs is that we stay consistent with things, right? That we're able to create things. The fixed signs are very good at creating and manifesting things because they're fixed, because they keep going, they keep showing up, they keep doing the thing that needs to be done, right? Now, however, of course, we always want to make sure that we're not taking that to an extreme, right? And so when we're holding on too tight, when we are taking things too personally, when we are not willing to make changes or to let go, that can not be in our favor, right? And that can sometimes create difficult situations for ourselves, so we may experience suffering from that. However, suffering is not necessary, right? Suffering is always something that happens when we're not able to move beyond something, when we're not able to let go, when we're not able to see our own resistances, right? That's when we create suffering, when we want things to be differently from how they are, right? So often when we stay in the past or when we stay in the future with a certain narrative, that's when we start to experience suffering. When we stay in the present moment and we really connect to what is true, what is so right here, right now, and what we actually have control over and what we can connect to, where we can make a difference, that is when we don't experience suffering. So we have to remember that suffering is to some degree a choice. I'm not saying that painful experiences are a choice. I'm just saying suffering is a choice. Because you might experience pain, you might experience something that feels painful, but whether you want to suffer because of it, that is a choice. So pain is something that is natural and organic and that we all experience in life. And suffering is something that is not organic. It's something that we experience because we're holding on to stuff, right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about the equinoxes and the solstices here. So we have, of course, every year, whenever the sun reaches 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, 0 degrees of Aries, 0 degrees of Cancer, 0 degrees of Libra, and 0 degrees of Capricorn, there is a powerful energy that gets created in the universe. And this is an energy where it's a great time for rituals and for setting powerful intentions in our lives. These are times for energetic gateways and turning points in our lives. It's also the change of seasons. So it's in some way we can see the 0 degree of the cardinal signs as like a beginning point of some kind, where we can something can begin to shift in a new direction, right? So these are powerful points. So to remember during these times, on those dates and those times, to set some powerful intentions for yourself. Now, I will also, for those of you who are interested in live events and who are either in the Pittsburgh area or who know people in the Pittsburgh area, I will be starting to do live events in Pittsburgh. I was going to do the first one in January already, but I just wasn't able to make that work because life got a little bit overwhelming. But I will start my first one on March 20th, on the day of the spring equinox, and then the next one on June 21st, and then the next one on September 22nd. So we can use these energies to really create beautiful intentions and to create a forward movement for us each year. All right. All right. And then let's move on to the next part of our preview, which is the retrograde phases. So the retrograde phases, of course, each year are very powerful as well. And so we definitely want to talk about those. Let me just take a sip real quick of my tea. Okay, so let's talk about retrograde phases. So first of all, let's talk about between February 3rd and April 29th, there's none of the planets will be retrograde. So this is the only time in 2022 when all planets will be going direct. And why is that important? Because when planets go direct, we are able to really move something forward in the outside world, right? And so if we're interested in making progress in the outside world, a phase where there are no retrograde phases is a good time to do that. Now, what are retrograde periods? What are they for, right? I talk about that a lot in my forecasting forums, right? But let's just review a little bit. So retrograde periods are a time of review, right? They're a time to complete things that were started before the retrograde phase or even before the shadow phase of the planet. They're a time of integrating things, processing things, right? Especially, if it's a personal planet like Venus, Mercury, and Mars, we're really needing to process and integrate something that we've been dealing with ourselves. It's also a time to eliminate certain things that are not working for us, to rethink certain things, to restructure certain things, to recover something, to reconcile things, to reform, to realign things, and to research. It's a great time for research as well, retrograde phases, right? So let's talk a little bit about the Venus retrograde phase, because that's what we're currently in, and it's happening pretty much most of January. And that Venus, of course, has to do with our values, with self-value, with how we value life or things in our life or other people. It's kind of a personal love, right? Venus. Whereas Neptune is more of a universal love that is more connected to just love in general. Venus is more a personal love. It's what do I love? What do I prefer? What do I feel attracted to? What do I like, right? So Venus is more of a personal love. And so with Venus in Capricorn, there is a review of our values, and to resolve Venus issues, basically, and to revive Venus projects, so anything that you love and prefer and like, or that you've been working on, that you've been feeling really good about, relationships that you've connected with that are helping you to achieve things in life, or to connect to get to your career goals, or finish certain long-term goals, or further them. We need to kind of reevaluate some of those things, but also revive some of these projects. The other thing that is good to remember with Venus, Venus goes through the same retrograde phase every 8 years, which means 8 years ago, Venus was also in Capricorn retrograding. And so look back to 8 years ago, what took place at that time, right? And for those of you who watched my Venus retrograde webinar in December, you probably, you already know some of that already. And yeah, by the way, feel free to purchase that or watch that again if you haven't seen it yet. Great webinar. Now, Mercury will go retrograde 4 times this year. Usually it's 3 times. This year it's 4 times, because it's also starting a retrograde phase on the very end of December that moves into January of 2023. But all of these retrogrades have something in common. If you can see here, these retrograde phases, they all start out in air signs, and then they move back into earth signs, right? Especially the first 3. This one is just going to be in Capricorn. But the first 3 start in air signs and then go into earth signs. What does that mean? That means that as we are trying to rethink or recommunicate something, or connect to certain thoughts and concepts, right, that we've been thinking about, we're starting out with that, which means that ideas and information that we've been connecting with needs to be brought into reality and into a more grounded place, because the earth signs want things to be real. They want things to be grounded. They want things to make sense. So we want to make it real. We want to make it into a physical reality, right? So the ideas and the information that we are collecting, or that we're receiving here in the air signs, or the collaborations that we're having, we want to ground them in reality, right? So all of these retrograde phases in Mercury are inviting us to do that. And again, Mercury, rethink, recommunicate, reconnect, reorganize. There will be more of that we'll talk about, of course, in the weekly forecasts. We talk about the Mercury retrograde in great detail as well. So feel free to read up on that in the weekly forecasts as well. And then Uranus is going to be is retrograde right now, as well as Venus, and is going to be going direct on January 18th. The same day that the moon nodes switch from Gemini Sagittarius to Taurus Scorpio. So that's an interesting connection right there that we have. Uranus in Taurus, of course, is so much about our individuation process, our personal individuation process. And it's connected to our physical world, our physical body, our physical experience of things, the planet, the planet's resources. It's connected to our body and our own personal resources, our money, our talents, our gifts that we have. So Uranus wants us to honor these gifts, these talents, these resources in a new way, in a different way. Because Uranus wants us to break through from old structures to new ways of doing things that are maybe more beneficial and maybe more connected to a universal alignment, right? Because Uranus is the higher mind, which means it's connecting us to the universal intelligence, to universal knowing, right? So we're being invited to bring our bodies, in a way, the vibrational energies of our bodies need to rise into a higher vibrational place so that we can connect more with the higher vibrational intelligence of the universe. And our body is going to be the conduit of that universal intelligence. So listening to our body and really taking good care of our body is going to be very essential while Uranus is moving through Taurus, right? Sometimes there can be nervous energy or radical energy that can be moving through the body. So we want to make sure that we stay grounded in our physical experience, that we allow the information to move through, that we allow the recognition of the information that's coming through our bodies. So really listening to the body, very important while Uranus is in Taurus, but especially during these station phases as well, right? So January 18th, when Uranus stations to go direct, we definitely want to pay attention. We want to look and what's in our face at this time. You know, what does our body want, need, asks of us, right? And then, of course, we have another retrograde coming with Uranus from August until January of next year in these degrees here. So if you have any personal planets in these degrees where these retrograde phases are taking place, again, this retrograde phase will be a lot more personal for you. And then that inner processing that goes on during a retrograde phase is something that is going to feel more personal as well, if you have anything in those degrees and signs, right? Now, one thing that I also want to mention is that between August 24th and October 8th, we have 6 planets in retrograde phases. So other than the personal planets, all of the outer planets and social planets are going to be retrograde. Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Jupiter will be retrograde. That's 6 of them. So during that time, there's a lot of inner processing that we'll be experiencing, right? Between August 24th and October 8th is a great time to do a lot of the inner work. So that way, when the planets start to go direct again after October 8th, one after another, that we can start to bring some of these realizations that we have explored in August, September, October, into the world again, that we can bring that back out into the world again. Now, let's take a look at Pluto. Pluto is going to go retrograde from April 29th until October 8th. So Pluto, in a sense, is the planet that is the reason why the retrograde phases begin, right? Where that's the first planet to go retrograde after we've had a couple of months of no retrograde phases. And it's also the first planet to go direct again of all the outer planets when all of these outer planets are no longer going to start to be retrograde. So it's the first planet to lead the way. And of course, Pluto is all about our transformational powers, our empowerment process on an individual and collective level. So, and in Capricorn, that means that we're really needing to transform our relationship to authority. We need to transform our relationship to responsibility, self-responsibility. We need to transform our relationship to the physical structures that we have in place, that society has in place, and see what works and what doesn't work, and to really let go of the stuff that's not working, and to embrace and get more empowered by the things that are working. And so this is our process, of course, that we're still going to be experiencing until 2024. In 2023, we're starting to already move into Aquarius with Pluto, but then in 2024, we're definitely going to stay in Aquarius. So this is the last, the last year, you could say, of Pluto in Capricorn completely, right? Like the whole year of Pluto in Capricorn. So we want to really make the best of it with this energy, because we need to learn these lessons. We need to learn the Pluto in Capricorn lessons. And on our individual level, we really need to get clear about, like, what is it that we want to do long term or build long term that we can feel really empowered by, that we can feel passionate about, that we can feel fulfilled, emotionally fulfilled by, right? These are the things that on an individual level we need to really take a look at. Now, Saturn is all about, the Saturn retrograde phase starts in June and goes until October 22nd in 25 to 18.5 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have any planets or angles in those degrees, of course, then Saturn is really teaching us to restructure things, right? During the retrograde phase, we need to have an internal process of restructuring. Then also we need to take a look at, during the retrograde phase, what rules have we agreed to collectively? What rules do I want to agree to personally? Why are they in place? And what rules do I put in place for myself, for me, that are connected or not connected, that are in alignment or in disalignment with the collective? And what am I focused on? Where am I focusing my energy? My mental energy in particular, right? Saturn in Aquarius, is still going to be in Aquarius until 2023. So this whole year of Saturn in Aquarius, we still have to take responsibility for where do we focus our energies, our mental energies, right? It's very much about the quality of the mind energy, right? What quality? Because Saturn is all about quality. It's about wanting to do something that is worth doing, right? So the quality of information, the high quality of what the brain or the mind engages in, high quality. We really want to make sure that we embrace the high quality of this. And then also, what do we want to master? Where do we want to master things that are connected to the mind, or that are connected to the collective, the collective mind? Because Aquarius, of course, has also to do with the collective mind. So what are we needing to master, or where do we need to be self-responsible when it comes to the collective mind and our thinking about that? And then mental health is going to be very important this year, again, as it was last year. People are losing their minds a little bit and losing their ability to think straight or rationally, because they get a little bit too focused on the collective mind, or or they're getting too focused on something that's actually pulling them down in a vibrational way, and that doesn't have very good quality in terms of its vision or its thinking, right? So we want to pay attention to where we're focusing our mind, right? Now, Neptune is going to go retrograde June 27 until December 3rd. That gives us an opportunity to reconnect to our intuitiveness, to our hearts, to the universal love of things. Chiron will go retrograde July 29th until December 23rd. That retrograde phase in Aries gives us an opportunity to reconnect to our own, to the masculine wounding within ourselves, to our individual wounding, to allow ourselves to heal through love and compassion, and to do some work on our inner wounding and our limitations that we feel are there, that we're either born with or that we've accumulated over time, and to just give ourselves lots of love and compassion. Now, Jupiter goes retrograde from July 28th until November 23rd. It starts out going retrograde in Aries and retrogrades back into Pisces. So in the beginning of that retrograde, we're definitely feeling all charged up and ready to go. And we're like, yes, this is it. This is what needs to happen next. But as we're getting towards the end of the retrograde phase, we're recognizing that there's still some more heart connection that we need to connect with, that we need to explore within ourselves, more trust, more intuitiveness that we need to connect to before we can fully charge ahead, right? Now let's talk about the Mars retrograde. That's a big one, because Mars obviously doesn't go retrograde every year. And Mars will be in Gemini for quite a long time this year. So the Mars retrograde, so let's talk about the Mars archetype first, right? Mars, the archetype, is all about being active, going after things. It's a very masculine energy, not connected to gender at all, but just masculine in terms of like going after things, desire or sex drive, courage, wanting to fight for things or wanting to protect things. And so with Mars retrograde, we have to reassess our desires. We have to reassess how we assert our own personal will, how we go about doing things or getting things. We have to redo, rework, reassess any kind of Mars issues. We have to resolve Mars issues. Mars can also be connected to anger, so we have to resolve anything that we feel angry about. And with Mars going retrograde in Gemini, a lot of that is connected to, how do our thoughts create our actions, right? And how can we kind of process some of that? Our ideas, our thoughts, information, right? Our mental drives. How can we use our words to get what we want? Use our words to inspire other people. Use our words to create leadership for ourselves, for others, right? Martin Luther King had Mars in Gemini, for example, right? So you can see with him, it is a very positive example or a very beneficial example of Mars in Gemini. Obviously, there's a lot of examples also where it's not so beneficial with people with Mars in Gemini, but I picked him because I want you to see the highest vibration of that. Mars in Gemini, using your words to lead, to inspire, to create courage within ourselves and other people, right? So this is the Mars retrograde, and that will happen from October 30th until January 12th, 2023. Okay, the last time Mars had a retrograde phase in Gemini, although not completely, it started out in Cancer and then went into Gemini, was in 2007, 2008. And it was retrograding in Gemini in January of 2008. So think back to January of 2008 and see if there's something that might resonate to that time. We might also do a forecasting forum on Mars in Gemini in October of this year. So when we do these forecasting forums, of course, we're going to talk a little bit in more detail about all of the things that I'm mentioning here in abbreviations. And we will also look at our own charts in relationship to everything in more detail. And you can also ask questions at that point. Today, unfortunately, we can't do that because there's just too much that we have to cover. So let me go to all these important dates. So we have some really important dates this year. One of them, of course, is the moon nodes moving into Taurus, Scorpio on January 18th. This will be what our next forecasting forum will be about. So feel free to join us for that. We'll talk about that in great detail. We will look at our own birth charts. We will answer your questions. This is this is a powerful thing that will happen for us for the next 18 months. So definitely if you're able to join us on, I think it's January 22nd. Now, the Saturn-Uranus square in Aquarius Taurus, very similar to what we've experienced in 2021, just that we have, there's no exact square that happens in 2022, but Saturn and Uranus will be within 10 degrees of each other for all of 2022. It will be at the very strongest until January 18th, within 3 degrees. Then again, from August 14th until November 22nd, also within 3 degrees. And then pretty strong also from January until February 4th, within 5 degrees. And from July 22nd until December 11th, within 5 degrees. So you can see here that we will definitely still feel this square quite strongly. And it just basically means that we're still needing to stretch ourselves collectively, individually speaking, around how we move with some of the things that we're focused on a collective level. Mental collective, the narrative that we're having collectively right now. How are we building something that actually serves us in the long run, and that has quality in the long run for all of us? Where we can also honor our own physical bodies, where we can honor the planet. Okay, so this is something that we'll definitely still experience all of 2022. Now, the thing that is interesting for all of us who live in the United States, but even for those of us who don't live in the United States, because of course America has a huge impact also on the global economy and the global experience. So even if you live in other countries, the US will go through a Pluto return 3 times in 2022, on February 20th, on July 11th, and December 28th. Now, what does that mean for us? Now, the Pluto return in the US could mean that we need to weed out any corruption that's taking place in government or in the systems and institutions that we have installed or that we're invested in the United States. And anything that's no longer working or empowering us needs to be transformed in connection with these systems and institutions, because it's happening in Capricorn, right? And so when the reason why we have a Pluto return, and actually let me show you a chart here for the US for the Pluto return. Let me just show you this here. This is the US chart, and we can see here Pluto in 27.5 degrees of Capricorn. This chart was created on July 4th, 1776, which is when the United States became independent from Great Britain. And so this is the chart, the birth chart of America, because it separated itself from the British Empire. And that was when Pluto was in 27.5 degrees of Capricorn. The United States decided we no longer want to be a part of the institution and the system that is Great Britain. So they transformed themselves into something new. So there was an ending and a new beginning. And so 2022, to some degree, with the Pluto return, could be an ending of certain institutions and systems in the United States and a new beginning of some sort. Now, obviously, how it's going to play out, I'm not sure. I don't know. What I can say is that the first pass on February 20th will be sort of like that's connected to an awakening, or something gets activated at that time. So the transformation gets activated on February 20th. Now, the second Pluto return on July 11th is when Pluto is retrograde and is retrograding back into. Now, as you can see, actually, Pluto was retrograde at the time of of when the United States was born. So that to some degree will be more powerful. That second return will be very powerful because Pluto will be retrograde, which means dismantling of old patterns. We're dismantling old patterns when Pluto is retrograde. And so the United States will be dismantling some old patterns connected to their institutions and to their systems. Now, then on December 28th, the third pass of Pluto moving over its natal Pluto of the United States, where it will be direct again. That will be when we move into a new level of some sort, where the transformation, the new beginning is finally taking place. So we can say that by the end of 2022, America will sort of have like a new story or a new place that it will go, that it will maybe even lead the rest of the world globally in terms of like things will come to the surface. We have to remember also Pluto brings things to the surface that were unconscious or that were in the shadows. So this year, of course, there will be a lot of stuff that will come to the surface, that will come into our consciousness, collectively speaking, in the United States and globally speaking as well, that will be connected to the United States narrative, that were in the shadows before, that were unconscious before, and that we now need to address and transform. And I also want to set intentions for 2022 with all of you. So if you're able to stay to that point, that would be really wonderful. All right. So let's move away from the Pluto return, and let's go back to the look ahead. The important dates that we were covering before, right? The 3 passes. Let's see. Yeah, you're welcome, Anna. All right, so Saturn in Aquarius squares the moon nodes exact on April 11th, very strong between March 19 and June 28th within 3 degrees. So when a planet squares the moon nodes, just like Jupiter did at the beginning of the year already, when a planet squares the moon nodes, there's a turning point that we're experiencing on our soul's journey. And so Saturn squaring the moon nodes tells us that there's something in the collective story or in our collective experiences that we're focusing on that we need to shift. Something needs to shift in terms of the focus. And so we'll see what that looks like on April 11th. But it's an unfolding, of course. Some of these things are also an unfolding. And so between March 19 and June 28th, we will definitely see that story unfold and what it is that where we need to focus differently and where we need to shift our gears in terms of our collective, what we want to build and what we want to achieve collectively for humanity. Now, Jupiter will make a conjunction to Pisces on April 12th at 24 degrees. This is strongest between March 27 and April 28th, but it's also pretty strong between March 18 and May 10th because it's still within 5 degrees during those dates. And so what does that mean? First of all, I wrote an article about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces in my Jupiter in Pisces article. So there's a passage or a paragraph in that article that's attached to the email that I was sending you as well. So feel free to read that article again. But what I can say now is that Jupiter and Neptune conjunction is a 12 to 13 year spiritual growth cycle. So we're stepping into a new spiritual growth cycle on April 11th. On April 12th of this year, and we need to release our resistance to separation. There is the mind is very interested in separation because when you separate things, it can feel safer or it can feel more like you can understand things a little bit better. You can categorize things. You can, you can kind of like create more of a safety net for yourself. So the mind loves to separate things. However, Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, they're interested in unity. They're interested in oneness. They're interested in us coming together. And so we need to release our resistances to separation in order to have spiritual growth. In order to evolve on a spiritual level, we need to release our resistance towards separation. Okay, so I want you guys to meditate on that, because, when I say we need to release our resistance to separation, some of you might think, well, I understand that we're all one, and I understand that there's no separation, but thinking it and experiencing it and feeling it are not always the same thing, right? And that's something I have to admit to myself over and over again, that I know things with the mind, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I know it, right? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, on all levels, right? So we have to learn to really pay attention to these resistances that we have, and to this need for separation in our lives. All right, so then Mars and Jupiter also make a conjunction in Aries on May 29th in 3 degrees of Aries. It's the strongest between May 23rd and June 3rd, within 3 degrees. That conjunction is very, very powerful, because Mars is an air, it's a masculine energy, it's a fast-moving energy. Jupiter is also a masculine energy to the extent that it's also very fast-moving, and to the extent that it's explorative and it's extroverted, right? So Mars and Jupiter are both extroverted, both looking to do things out there in the world. And Aries is a fire sign that's also very extroverted, and that's also very fast-paced and fast-moving. So what we have with this conjunction here is like during that time, what we're going to be experiencing is high energy, a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. And so what we want to use this courage and this enthusiasm for our higher good. We want to co-create with the universe as we're stepping into this powerful energy. If we're not co-creating with the universe, then this energy can be quite destructive as well. So pay attention to how you're using this Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Aries. Really use it for the highest good of everybody involved. Now, Jupiter in Pisces makes 3 passes. One was already last year. The other one has started December 28th, will last until May 11th. Oh, I thought it was May 10th. Okay. Hold on, guys. I think I may have, that may be wrong. What did I write down here? It's May 10th. I don't know why I wrote May 11th. I'm so sorry, guys. So can you correct that on your piece of paper, please, that it's May 10th, not May 11th? And then, of course, here also, Jupiter will be in Aries from May 10th until October 28th. And then again, from October 28th until December 20th, in 28 to 29 degrees of Pisces, 3 passes. So as we're moving through Jupiter and Pisces, please remember to connect to the heart energy. Remember to connect to a bigger vision of what your heart desires. What would you like to manifest? What do you wish for? Right? We can really realize our dreams right now if we keep visualizing the dream that we want to move towards, right? Now, Jupiter is about expansion for better or worse, right? So really use the expansion for the better. And that's where the co-creation with the universe comes in, where we want to create what's the best and highest interest for everybody involved, ourselves included, right? Expansion for better, for worse. enthusiasm, optimism, for better and for worse. So choose the highest vibration, choose the highest path possible with your expansion, with your enthusiasm, with your optimism, right? Now, let's see. Jupiter will move into Aries May 10th. So I apologize for the wrong date here. I don't know what happened there. I guess I was rushing. Mars in Sagittarius. What can I say? Yes. So Jupiter in Aries, we want to be aware of impatience. We're going to be wanting to move very fast. We're going to feel impatient, but we're also going to feel courageous. So again, you know, with Jupiter in Aries, use that energy for its highest good. Co-create with the universe. Use that courage to create a narrative that is really that is healing for the world. You know, we have to also remember that Chiron is currently in Aries, right? So Mars, which is connected, which is the ruler of Aries, you know, is also connected to Chiron, to our healing journey. So we want to make sure that whatever we're creating with this Mars-Jupiter conjunction and with this Jupiter and Aries movement, we want to create healing for the world, healing for ourselves, healing for people around us, okay? Now, Mars conjuncts Uranus and the North Node in Taurus on August 1st. This is also a very important date this year because when Mars and Uranus conjunct the North Node, that is really an invitation for us to move into our soul's journey and to move more closely into what we need to explore on a Taurus level with our with abundance, with feeling beauty, connecting to beauty and abundance in our lives on a physical level, connecting to our own gifts, our own talents, connecting to what we value. Now, Mars is usually triggers something. So Mars will trigger an event that moves us forward on our soul's evolution. So watch out what happens at the end of July and beginning of August, because end of July, beginning of August, we're really getting this, it's like we're getting set up to move more into our own evolutionary process at that time. Now, the last thing I want to mention here, which is not on this important dates sheet because I forgot to put it in, but I want you to add it, is on March 6th, there's going to be a Venus-Mars conjunction in 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is the same degree that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction took place in December of 2020. So when Venus and Mars move over this degree on March 6th, pay attention to what's happening that day for you personally, because that will be sort of like you're stepping into something on a more personal level that is connected to that 20-year Jupiter-Saturn cycle, okay? So pay attention to what happens on March 6th for you. And let's see, what else did I... So I think we have covered all the important dates. What I would like to do now is I would like to just take a couple of minutes to share with you a couple of things that I think you're interested in, that are important for you to know. And then I would like to set some powerful intentions for 2022. So make sure you still have a piece of paper and a pen ready for the intentions. And then let me just share with you, I have a new collaboration with Leah that I'm doing. Leah is one of my students from Soul-Based Astrology, and some of you already know this. She's done some readings for people in December, and also she's still doing them this month for 50% discount in exchange for feedback. And she's doing really well. She's giving fantastic readings. And I just wanted to very quickly introduce Leah to all of you in case you wanted to do a reading with her in case you wanted to explore something with her. As a star member, you get a 10% discount with Leah. And if you're not a star member, it's still only a little bit less than the whole life reading that I'm giving. So feel free to check Leah out. Leah, are you still with us? Are you still here? I don't know if you were able to
Hello.
stay on.
I am.
Yes,
Hi.
you are. Fantastic. So I just wanted to introduce Leah. Hi, Leah, to say hi to everybody.
Hello.
And how has it been so far with the readings that you've been doing so far?
Oh, it's been great. I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody, and just get the opportunity to connect with so many new folks that I normally wouldn't get to meet
Yeah.
or come across. So it's been great.
And are you enjoying the reading process? Because I know this is fairly new for you.
Oh, I love it. Yes, it's very exciting. You really get a deep appreciation for. Excuse me, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Leah
I'm
has
momming.
children. Leah has children. So we have, hi, who are you?
But just a deep appreciation for everybody's uniqueness and their placements and things like that. So it's been really great.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks so much. And thanks for doing this as well. Thanks for offering the reading to people. Thanks for being so conscientious and just really giving beautiful readings to people because I've seen the feedback. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy. So all of you have met Leah now. That's good. And then let me go to the next page here. So all of you have these pages here attached in your emails as well. So in case you wanted to take a look at that on your own time, I just wanted to share all of the webinars that are available for you to watch on my website. That's also a handout, an attachment in the email. Then of course my soul-based astrology courses. These are also available to all of you. If you wanted to get a certification like Leah and wanted to, start working with me, this is something that's available for any of you who would like to give readings to people or like to explore astrology on a more professional level. But even if you just want to do it for yourself or want to do it for relatives or friends, these courses are really wonderful to get you to a place where you can really read charts for people, right? So it's really wonderful. Then, of course, with every purchase of a reading, you also get a one-on-one tutoring session with me. So that's something that's available either for 25-minute or 1 hour tutoring sessions. So if you're a star member, of course, some of this is for free for you. You get a free tutoring session with each course that you purchase. And then one thing that I did want to mention was my huge sale that's starting today. So for all of you who haven't seen this email yet, this is an email that went out today where you can purchase anything on my website, readings, coaching sessions, courses, tutoring sessions, webinars, lectures, all at a pretty good discount, a pretty big discount. And if you're not yet a star member, because star members get a 10 to 15% discount already, if you're not yet a star member, I'm also adding a bonus gift to those of you who are not, so that you can take advantage of an even bigger discount for this month. Okay, so you get, if you add the star membership to your cart first, then you become a star member. And then once you're a star member, you can then add the discount coupon, everything for less, to your cart, to anything that you purchase, and then you get huge discount. So that's available for the next 2 weeks. So take advantage of that if you want to. And then let's do some setting intentions. So get your papers out. Get your paper out. I'm going to get my paper out as well because I want to set some intentions too. And so this is something I think that's really important right now, because with Jupiter being in Pisces, it's so powerful for us. We can really visualize and imagine what future we want to live into, right? And despite the fact what reality currently looks like and what we're currently going through, we have to understand that because each one of us are creators and we each of us are creating our own reality, what we're visualizing and what we're imagining is very, very, very powerful. And it's much more powerful than we can even imagine. So set some really powerful intentions. Obviously, when it comes to intention settings, I always say set them in the present moment as if it's happening right now, right? You don't want to set it for the future or for the past, because when you set it for the future, you never get there. And when you set something for the past, then it's already gone. It's already not here anymore, right? So we definitely want to set our intentions always for the present moment. And we always want to set them in such a way that they resonate, right? You need to feel your intentions as like yes, like a yes. You set your intentions and it needs to feel like a yes. So what I want you to do right now is take your pen and write down 2 or 3 intentions. And if you're watching this as a recording, feel free to do the same. Go to your pen and paper. And what is it that you want to imagine yourself? How about we set one intention for something that you want to imagine for yourself personally, and then one intention that you want to imagine for yourself for humanity. Okay? So personal and humanity. Let's do one intention each. So, and you can, of course, you can do more later as well. So just for right now. So I usually start with I allow 2022 to be ... or I imagine 2022 to be ... Okay, so take your time with that. Okay, so I have mine. Do you guys need a little bit more time? Yes, need more time? Okay, take your time. I'm going to be sipping my water. And for those of you who already finished your intentions for 2022, feel free to just take a sip of water or stretch, wiggle around. Okay. Okay, everybody good now? All right, so if some of you have already set some intentions, if there's anybody who would like to share their personal intention that they're setting for 2022, something that they want to allow or imagine, or that they want to welcome into their lives for 2022. Anybody wants to share something? Just one person. Don't be shy. This is a safe space. Anybody?
I'll share mine.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kathy.
I allow 2022 to be the year of our new home.
Beautiful. Yes.
And I allow our intimacy to blossom in miraculous ways.
Ooh, I like that. Intimacy, yes. South Node in Capricorn. I mean, in Scorpio. South Node in Scorpio. Very nice. Yes, love that. Thanks for sharing that, Kathy. That's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Okay, very good. Now, is there anybody who would like to share what they want to imagine for humanity for 2022? Anybody want to share one thing that they want to imagine or welcome for humanity for 2022? So Michaela is actually sharing here, I allow 2022 to be the year wherein I restore my voice and record an album, Bossa Nova. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Michaela. Very nice. Okay, very good. And anybody has something for humanity? For 2022 for humanity? Anything that you want to imagine for humanity? Anybody? Debbie, do you have something for us? Carl, would you like to share? Anybody?
Well, I had mine it's kind of blended together.
Okay.
In terms of humanity, in trying to manifest my own stuff and self-realization, that the humanity part, my gifts are shared. I find deep peace in the emptying, and all are touched from within.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Yes. That's really gorgeous. Okay, great. So let me share what I wrote down. So I wrote down, I allow 2022 to be a huge heart opening for me personally. So just to really trust and fill my heart with as much trust and love as possible. And then the other one I have for humanity is I imagine 2022 to be a beautiful awakening and the beginning for a spiritual evolution for humanity. Okay. So, because I feel that the reason why I want to hold that as an intention is because I feel that we've been focusing so much on things in terms of politics, or in terms of racism, or in terms of like just the our structures, how we've built things, and I feel like it's really important that we're moving into this spiritual evolution of things, like that we're going beyond all of the day-to-day stuff, not that that's not important, but I feel like it's important for us to see the co-creation that is so readily available to us, that we really see that as a collective, that we see that humanity can step into that. All right, beautiful. Well, thanks so much, guys, for connecting. Here we have, Debbie's saying, thank you, Sonja, and everyone. Here's to a sweet 2022 from the inside of us to the outside. Yes, thank you, Debbie. That's beautiful. So I just wanted to share here real quick. First of all, thank you for joining me, of course, whether you joined live or as a recording. And then the next journey that we're doing is on January 22nd with the moon nodes in Taurus, Scorpio. So feel free to share about that with other people. Feel free to let people know about the big 2-week sale as well, because people can get a free star membership right now, and then they can participate in this forecasting forum. And I think the more we spread the word, the more we can support each other in how we can use the energies to our best abilities, and also so that we learn how to co-create with the universe. So feel free to share with as many people as you can. And of course, take advantage of the sales. Like this is a 2-week sale. I don't think I've ever done this before. This a huge sale like that. So definitely, take advantage while it lasts. And thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you so much for joining us today and for playing and for what I want you also to do is the 2021 piece of paper. If you've written something on for 2021, if you like, you can take that part, that piece of paper about 2021, and you can just rip it apart, because 2021 is now gone. It's over, and we're now stepping into 2022. So we can take 2021, we can let it go, and not that we're not learning, right, from 2021, but we're letting it go because we've learned our lessons. We know what worked, what didn't work, and we're now ready to step into a new 2022, which is going to be our new intentions for 2022. And we're stepping into this, and this is going to be our new focus. So feel free to do that if you can, if you have it on 2 different pieces of paper. And yeah, have a fantastic 2022. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, concerns, or worries, or need support in any way. I'm here for you. Leah is here for you. We're both here for you. And yeah, much love to all of you. Okay? Have a good one. Bye-bye.